Welcome to the Donhat crew.
I played 6, 7, 8 sakazukis.
A lot of sakazukis.
Yeah, so starting off the deck list, I do play Shura. I know some people have debated cutting it down or at least not playing it at 4. I was debating 2 as well. I would have replaced them with crackers actually, but I just didn't have any at home. And after this tournament, I actually would not consider cutting him again just because he increases. He has a lot of advantages. One of them is obviously increasing your chances of these two finding each other, which is extremely crucial because this tempo play is obviously just absolutely insane if you get it on curve. I mean, it's page 1 ulti, but you don't have to go -1 Dawn, and you actually get the Holly for free because you, like in the cases you draw it off of Ohm.
I agree.
And
Since I personally play the same deck, I've seen deck lists where they play only 2 Shuras, and I don't agree with that because first of all, it's a trigger. You can get it for free. It's a 3 Dawn and a 5k swing. Give me a card, especially in this meta against Purple Luffy, let's say. And
yeah,
you
especially
get
with Amaru, he
yeah,
easily swings a
yeah.
lot of times.
Just get rid of a blocker and swing for 5. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I believe it's a good choice. Yeah.
Also in the finals, I did something like Amaru, a Rebecca, and then just swing 2 into the Rebecca, which is also very relevant. So he's just extremely useful. I also did Tendon, play Shura, Katakuri him into my own life, so that's something that you can't really do. Unlike we play the Conus for that interaction as well, but if you don't play Shura, you only have the Conus to do something like that. And if you don't have a board and you're at 0, it can be really crucial to if you only have a Katakuri to get that healing in. Yeah, I don't think I need to talk about these too much. They're just
I agree
extremely good. Gedatsu's an interesting card in my opinion. He's extremely niche. Like he doesn't come up. I mean, obviously, his best turn is the 5 or 6 Dawn turn, and playing mostly against Sakazuki, I think I always on my first turn that I could attack, I didn't, to threaten the Gedatsu into their potential Kuzan or Rabluki. And yeah, in the final this also came up. He didn't have anything other to do than play a Rabluki vanilla, and I was able to just KO that, which obviously gets us like a real nice card and tempo advantage. And other than that, it just prevents them from... No, I did it in another game as well. Like I think this was the semifinals or top 16. Either way, they ended up... I went Ohm Holly on 4 Dawn.
Yeah.
They ended up going Great Eruption or like Ice Age, Rabluki, clear my board, but then I could just Gedatsu the Rabluki again on my 6 Dawn turn. So I think, especially against Sakazuki, it's imperative just not attacking on your 3/4 Dawn turn.
It's becoming common not to attack in this meta. It didn't happen like that the previous set when in OPO4. Nobody ever thought of not attacking, right?
Yeah, OPO4 was just like straight gas, but in OPO1 it was actually really relevant as well against Law, for example. Like you would just starve him. But yeah, this Gedatsu is also in the mirror. I don't really like. There's some cases in which I just don't attack for like the first 1 or 2 turns even, because I think in the mirror, one of the most deciding factors is how much value your Gedatsus and Yamatos get, like in KOing characters.
I want to announce the weekly tournaments that the Donhat crew will be hosting. To have up-to-date information about the weekly tournaments, join my Discord. All the links will be in the description.
Finishing up the Sky Island package is 3 Enel, 2 Konis, and 4 Satori. I mean, these just 2k counters. Konis has the added benefit of being able to go for Konis Katakuri here into your life and the interaction that I explained before. Satori is just straight up good 2k counter. I mean, the trigger comes up. I think I triggered her like twice. Just a beat stick against Katakuri, against Sakazuki is just really useful, or against Purple Luffy, something like that. And yeah, this guy was exceptional. I think yeah, I still do run one 7-cost Big Mom in this list, but it should just be a 4th NL potentially, or just another card. I put him at 3 because he's obviously searchable, and yeah, you don't want to... Between Yamato, Katakuri, and him, you often have like those scenarios where you do have all 3 of them in hand, and it's quite tricky to decide which of them is the best line to go into. And I also have like another spicy tech, which sort of interferes with him. So yeah, we don't want him at 4, but he's obviously just really, really good. Like the sturdiness, he's such a nuisance for Sakazuki. Like if you already have one big body on the board and they don't instantly remove it and you get to play this down, it's really hard for Sakazuki to come back, because the issue for Sakazuki is if you continuously get to have 2 or more attacks in a turn, because they just can't defend too well, and they're always in danger of getting Amaru to just instantly die. So yeah, this guy was super, super good. Finishing up the 2Ks and going into the sort of non-Sky Island cards, I'm just gonna wrap this up. Yeah, continuing 2K Batch, we don't need to talk about this as well.
Yep.
Just potentially game-winning trigger. And yeah, I even played him out in like my first match against Blue Crocodile, because it was like a potential another attacker. And if you can afford to play him and you know your opponent can't really afford to remove him, then you can put him into your life with Katakuri the next turn. So that's obviously really niche, but it can come up. And I guess this is also a discussion in NL lists, if it's like Sanji or Brule.
Yeah.
I personally prefer Sanji just because he can swing very easily, and discarding the card. If you think about it, like, would you play a card that's like 0 cost, give your character plus 4,000 permanently? Because like that's essentially what it is. You ditch a card that's no cost, like no don cost, but you have a 5k 4 cost instead of a 1k 3 cost.
And it's a 4 cost, so they cannot attack with Sakazuki and just Houndblaze it, which is
exactly,
also good.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Great Eruption, Houndblaze is a great answer to this, but just like the offensive, like I like to. The thing about Enel is that it has like these 2 modes, right? You can go really aggressively with like the Rushs and the Amarus and your 5k body triggers, and your Omen Holly, but you also have this just like late game. Like, okay, I just play all my Yamatos and Katakuris and outvalue you and just kill you. So I think he supports the aggressive game plan a lot more. This is the spicy tech. 2 starter deck Katakuris. This card was absolutely amazing. Like, just insane surprise factor. Like, if you, for example, search and rush Enel in like your early game, and then you're on 7 Don, and your opponent has like a Kuzan rested, you swing 5 into the Kuzan, they protect, and they're like, okay, the maximum he can do is like play a Rush NL and swing into it, but suddenly Rush Katakuri can swing for a 9 into it. And yeah, that's just like one niche example of how he can, that obviously applies to all rested character board states. He also just helps apply pressure. He has vanilla stats, and looking at your life is really valuable as well. It helped me quite a few times. I played this, like every time I drew it, I played it as well. So yeah, I think this is like a totally sleeper card. I think the only deck it's good in is actually like Enel, because you just always want to go down to 1, or in some scenarios 2, so your Yamato can pop something bigger or something. But yeah, he's just been exceptional. The surprise factor is obviously a big advantage in it, but I think even if people like sort of start expecting it, it's really hard to play around this. As mentioned before, I did run one 7-cost Linlin. I played her twice. One of the games where I played her, was one of my losses to Sakazuki. She wasn't great. Like, honestly, I'd probably want this to just be not a big boy, just like a cracker probably. Like, I'll talk about the changes I intend to do to this at the end, but this is one of them. This is a card I would cut. And then shout out to my teammate Hans for this, because these are not my Katakuris. I only have one, and he gave them to me for the last treasure cup. And yeah, these are obviously...
They look amazing.
Yeah, they're really pretty, and the card is so good. Like,
yeah.
especially in the meta where there's like 7-cost Borsalinos, the Mirror, 7-cost Kid against Luffy. He's just amazing in every matchup. You can put Shura into your life.
Even in the mirror match, you can Katakuri the Katakuri, and they Katakuri your Katakuri, and so on.
Yeah, that can get quite outrageous. The reason, usually I'm not even a yellow player. I was a law player for most of the time. Then I switched to Whitebeard, Sakazuki. I've been around, but this was the first tournament I actually brought yellow, and this was inspired by my girlfriend, actually, because I taught her the game last set, introducing her to Katakuri, and then she switched to Enel, and she played her first tournament at DreamHack Hanover last month.
Yeah,
and she did really well, and we played the 3v3 as well, and played together in that, and she was actually like my inspiration for playing this, and she also gave like input for deck building, so huge shout out to that as well.
She's the key to your victory, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Another no-brainer, of course. We do have the best card in the deck. I mean, this is absolutely what carries you in a lot of games. Just chaining this. In my game 1 against Crocodile, I didn't swing live for I went second and I didn't swing live on 4 Dawn because I expected like the 5-cost X-Drake blocker. And the turn after on my somehow he countered out of my swings on 6 Dawn and 7 Dawn. Wait, no, I'm confused. On 6 Dawn and 8 Dawn, and it ended up being the case that he with like 9 Dawn swings 7 at my leader.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still at 2 and he's at 5, so I did a 2k and a 1k, and he plays a Borsalino, and I Yamato the Borsalino, because we were at 7.
Yeah.
So things like that can even come up, and that's obviously just like insane tempo.
Especially in some matches where they're trying to build a board and you're not attacking their life, you're also trying to do the same thing. It can come up, especially if you, for example, attack, they get a trigger, let's say Sanji. You could be able to do that. Like, yeah, she's just busted. She's like the best card in the deck, to be honest.
Yeah, I would agree. Another thing that's like maybe worth mentioning is I sort of more realized this yesterday, was if there's like a scenario where you are at 2 life and your opponent is swinging at you and you're considering to counter it so you can like pop a 4-cost potentially, like, because those are relevant. There's not like too many relevant 5-costs in the meta, but like there's like all these Luchis and Kuzans and Rebecca blockers against Sakazuki. I mean, Sakazuki is obviously the most relevant deck, and Enel also has like Hollies and Ohms, and I mean, Holly's obviously not a 4-cost, but
yeah, but
like 4 drops and 3 drops are more relevant because of like Lucci, Hina, and Ohm Holly. And if I have to choose between going down to 1 and popping a Hina, or countering out, staying at 2 and popping a Lucci, it's like way better to just go down to 1 and pop the 3 drop.
Yep.
Because like just 1000 power on the opposing unit, but I get an additional card, and like I keep the card that I would have countered with. So it's basically I go +2 because I get the heal, which I wouldn't otherwise, and yeah.
And you potentially could get the trigger as well. So
yeah, that as well.
Yeah.
So it's just I don't think it's super clear, because people think like, I want to pop the Lucci, but popping a 3-cost is just as good, basically. It's just another body. Of course, the 1000 power can matter, but the advantage you get from healing is just way bigger. Yeah, finishing up, we are going to the events, which is probably, I guess, kind of unusual. I only play 1 Thunderbolt, 1 L Thor, and 4 Amaru. This was the absolute MVP card. Like, if you're not playing this at 4, you're sleeping. This is insane. This won me so many games. I mean, I only played against Sakazuki basically, right? I played 8 Sakazukis. So, of course, this is going to be great, but if that's the meta, then, like, if the meta is so much Sakazuki, then this has to be a 4-off. Thor, I didn't play once. I threatened it once in the mirror match, which made him adjust to swings, but you can also, like, I still didn't use it. Like, you can still threaten it if you're not running it in your deck, so yeah, I'm probably cutting this completely, and I'm also considering cutting the Thunderbolt. So what I'm thinking right now is cutting these 2 and the Lin for 3 Cracker.
Nani?
No, I think it's just like, it's only good I played this once to pop a Kuzan, 4-cost Kuzan, which was good in that case, but I was so ahead in that game that I would have won anyways. So that wasn't really, it was just like convenient, but not necessary at all. And yeah, I don't like playing too many of these because they just suck in hand generally.
Yeah.
Because unlike in Katakuri, I'm going to be at 1 most of the time anyways. Because I don't want to defend life until I go to 1, but Katakuri wants to defend life early so they can get to their 10 cost and stuff like that. So to them, Thunderbolt is really crucial for them to go from 2 to 1 and then be able to Amaru. But this is just like for the trigger, and yeah, sometimes people play around Amaru, of course, but then they always lose out on value, and they make your Yamato better if they don't put you to 1 and stuff like that, like in regards to popping stuff. So yeah, I just don't see the necessity. And Shirahoshi is also like, what would I cut for Shirahoshi? That's like question number 1, I guess. But the thing about Shirahoshi is she will make you see your top end more often, probably.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Shura has like all these upsides of being able to swing, of being an early play. And if you play Shirahoshi and Shura, it's like you're missing out on some of those 5k bodies probably, which are just so crucial in pursuing the aggressive game plan. Like, I feel like Shirahoshi only supports the late game plan, like only supports the big boy and girl plan. And I just don't want to go in that direction, like especially with the 4-cost Katakuri that I'm playing. I just interpret Enel as more of an aggressive deck, and I don't see Shirahoshi in that. Like, it's a good card for sure. Like, you can play it and you can still have success with Enel. I don't think this is the one list to rule them all. I think it's very like variable. You can play a Big Mom package and this deck will work out fine. You can play 4 Thunderbolt and that will still work probably. Especially Thunderbolt gets also better if you play Shirahoshi because you can ditch the dead ones in your hand. But with the list that I'm running, I don't actually have that much stuff I want to ditch. Like, everything I have, like these Sanjis, I can play them easily. And obviously my big boys and girls I don't usually want to ditch because they're the best cards in my decks. And all of my other cards have like counter, except for Enel. I don't want to ditch unless I have like 3 in hand. But Shirahoshi is going to make me more likely to have 3 in hand anyway, right? So
Yeah.
I prefer to have this like more consistent low to the ground, and being able to put out the pressure. And Cracker was amazing in testing. Again, I would have played him if I would have had any at home, but I just for some reason couldn't find any. And yeah, that's sort of, yeah. Again, shout out to Amaru. I had ridiculous triggers in the final, like 2 of them in live, just to save my ass. But also, semifinals was completely ridiculous because my opponent had 10-cost Kaido, Borsalino, and a Lucci on board, and I had a Yamato. I had 2 Yamato and a Shura. And his turn was Kaido swings 14 at Yamato. I triple 2k. And then for 8 Don, he plays another Borsalino and a Rebecca. My turn. He's at 1 at this point. 3 of these.
That's it.
Just resting all 3 blockers, buffing Shura twice and Lido once, and then going in for 9, 9, 9. And he had like 11 cards in hand because he played 10 cost Kaido, but yeah, like 4 9k swings, or even bigger because I still had Don, are just too much. And that's a game that you cannot win unless you have this card in this quantity.
Against Sakazuki, I agree. And this card is not only offensive, it can be defensive as a trigger.
Yeah, exactly.
You can ditch the bricks from your hand that you don't need and just keep on living, as they say.
Yeah, and the interaction with that came up in the finals. I just had that interaction. Like I played 4 cost Katakuri to check my own life, and I saw that my last life was Amaru, so I knew I had like, if I was at 2 cards in hand and he swings at my last life, I can just trigger the Amaru, ditch 2 cards, and then heal for 2. That interaction, like I had to ask the judge.
2 cards, basically.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
I had to ask the judge if the ruling really works like this, because I
does.
thought it would, but I had a situation in the sim where it just wouldn't resolve like that. But that's probably just a mistake in the sim then.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure, so I started like typing, and people thought I was like Googling the answer.
Like I'm getting tilted right now watching him Google like a core function in his deck.
But I was just like asking the judge in voice channel because he was spectating if I have a question to him that I don't want my opponent to know about.
Yeah, I think he has a question for Mark. Dude, it's a 200 million volt Amaru, like almost undoubtedly.
And he said I should just DM him, so that's what I did. And people were like, "What the fuck? He's googling, doesn't even know his own cards."
You can't Google the answer, so how it works in Yu-Gi-Oh is you can't tell somebody a ruling before the play happens because it influences a play. You have to do it, and then if you can't do it, the judge will tell you. So that's how it works in Yu-Gi-Oh. I don't know how it works in One Piece.
Yeah, the interaction works like that. Personally, I didn't know that at first, but basically, if you have no cards when an else effect triggers, you still get the life, but you don't pitch any cards. There's also a new interaction I found out about today with Cracker. For example, if you have 1 life left and Cracker goes double attack, like there was a station where we were talking about the fact that if he goes a double attack at your 1 life and you take the life, should you take the second life? Because it's a double attack, right?
That's interesting.
And
I mean, my first instinct would be no.
Yeah, my instinct was no, but the guy was really pushing it and saying, no, you should take the second one based on how the mechanics work. And yeah, maybe, but then we looked at the official webpage and it states that the Enel effect happens after all the damage is done.
Yeah, for sure.
Basically, you get to keep your life, you don't go down to 0.
Yeah, that would have surprised me. Like, yeah, it's just...
I was surprised in the mirror match. He just went 11k with the Cracker. I have 1 life. I'm like, okay, I'll take it.
And he was like thinking that you're just down to 0.
Yeah,
after that.
But still, like, it's an interesting interaction for people to know because they might have it, the station, I mean. So they should know there's even an official post about it on the One Piece webpage about the OP05 rulings. So just so you know, if you get double attacked and you have 1 life, you still keep your second life with Enel. Just for myself, I have a few questions.
Yeah, sure.
Call it a Q&A. I noticed that you have like 4 MRs, and just from talking to you right now, I agree Enel can be offensive, it can be defensive, right? What I noticed is that like the Thunderbolt is just too good against Sakazuki because the Borsalinos, because all their targets are basically lower than 5, right? Except for the 7 cost Borsalino, yeah. Why not run more of them? Like, why only?
I mean, it's only good in trigger.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be. I mean, you can Thunderbolt Borsalino on your turn, and you can't. Like, you don't want to Thunderbolt Rebecca. The only reasonable Thunderbolt targets are Sabo after the turn he was played, and like the one turn after, and Kuzan. And I just don't think that comes up often enough. Like that the Thunderbolt is in your. I'm not willing to pay the price of having Thunderbolt in my hand 4 times as much, or whatever, how many you want to play. Of course, I will in return have Thunderbolt in my life 4 times as much, but I didn't have Thunderbolt in my life once in the tournament, so whatever times 0 is still 0. It's just too inconsistent for me. I don't know. I want to play cards that are good in my hand and in my life.
Because sometimes there's a thing, what people say is that the more people know about Enel, the worse the deck gets. Basically, the more they know how to play against it, the worse the deck becomes, right? Because, for example, some people will keep you at 1 life. Some people will even attack your last life and give you triggers because they don't know, like, if they should or should not. But those are like people that have never played against the deck, right? The best players will keep you at 2 life, so you don't get Yamato, so you don't get stuff like that. The smart players, right? They will just build a board, not attack you, keep you at 2 life, and then try to swing all at you, like try to finish you off or at least get a bunch of cards from your hand. The reason I'm talking about the Thunderbolt is because sometimes you're sitting at 2 life, and you could go for game, you have Amaru's, but you cannot use Amaru's resting effect because you have 2 life, right? The Thunderbolt can put you at 1 life, and then you can Amaru all of his board if he has a bunch of blockers.
That is for sure, like, again, I mentioned that in the Katakuri example, right? That is for sure a super valid point for Thunderbolt being good in your hand, but I didn't have that scenario come up once. Like, I was always, when I wanted to play Amaru, I could.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think this... the good players will just keep you at 2.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit optimistic from their standpoint, because if they keep you at 2, there will always be the scenario that if you have triggers in those, then 3 life, right? Because an NL that's at 2 is basically a normal leader that's at 3. They can never go safely for game. Like, it increases the chances of potential triggers like Thunderbolt, and they don't know I'm playing 1 Thunderbolt or none, so they always still have to play around that. And it just makes it more risky. So what I found is that people actually do put me to 1 a lot. Like, you can argue if that's a misplay or not, but I've played against like top players. Like in this tournament, there were like 20 or more top event topping players, and I played many of them, and great Sakazuki players, and for me the situation just didn't come up that I wish, like, oh, I wish I had a Thunderbolt here to put myself down to 1. And honestly, even for that interaction, I would assume, like, I considered running Smoothie instead.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's just another 5k body that triggers to put tempo, and she has counter. Thunderbolt doesn't.
I agree in some cases. I mean, you're the winner. I'm not gonna say anything, but in this case, like, even having 1 Thunderbolt in the deck, for them just to see it, it already plays with their mind, right? Like, they're not gonna swing full board unless they sabo the board and stuff like that. So just having 1 card in the deck already plays mind games, right? Same with the Eltor, I would say.
Well, but they don't know that I'm running 1, right? Like,
That's the
only
point.
if I show them, but then it's like, okay, I have to draw the 1 copy, and then I also have to be in the position that I want to play the copy.
Yeah.
For them to then make an assumption that I run multiple, but they're gonna make the assumption, like, they're gonna play around Thunderbolt anyways. Like, I don't think that they have to see that I'm running it to play around it.
Well, after today, after showing your deck list, people might consider that people are not running Thunderbolt. You know, there's
I don't know.
there's a not a Sanji, a Zoro promo card that should come up that has a similar effect that pops.
The forecast, right?
Yeah. So
that I would that I would run for sure if it was available to us, because I mean, it pops the same relevant things like the Borsalinos and stuff, but it has counter, and I can just play it as a 4-drop.
Another thing I would like to know, if you faced any purple Luffys, because Against purple Luffy's, most of their blockers are 5k, 5 costs. So Amaru is not as efficient unless it's a purple law, which that's the only 4 cost blocker I think they have, right? Yeah.
Yeah, against purple Luffy, obviously Amaru is a lot worse. But no, I didn't. I just again played a blue crocodile in round 1, an Enel mirror in top 8, and the rest was Sakazuki.
Wow, crazy.
Those were 8 Sakazukis, and I went. Wait, let me check. Was it 8 Sakazukis? I think so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, and I went 6-2 against those. And I beat the Croc and I beat the mirror match as well.
So what was your final result? Was 8-0, right?
8-2. I went 5-2 in Swiss,
Yeah.
getting in at 14th. And because I got a down pair in round 2 and round 4, because the system was sort of like just pairing whoever's next to each other in the standings.
Yeah.
So 1 plays against 2 and vice and so on. And in round 2 we were an uneven amount of 1-0s, so I got down paired because I was randomly in the last place. I got down paired against the 0-1 guy, and then that trend continued because I had a worse tiebreaker because I got the down pair, so I was still at the bottom of the XO list.
Yeah.
And then I got down paired in round 4 again, and I lost that game. So I had to pray and claw my way back to the 5-2, and then top cut was flawless.
To which decks did you lose?
2 Sakazukis.
2 seconds.
Yeah, one of them just had like 4 cost Kuzan on curve, and I didn't have a Gedatsu, and then he just put down another Kuzan the turn after, I think. And that was just too much. He could just instantly remove my threats always. And the other guy had like pretty good Lucci answers, like Ice Age Lucci into my Ohm Holly, and 10 cost Kaido on curve is obviously really, really tough to deal with. And that guy I lost to was the guy I played in semifinals as well, where he also had 10 cost Kaido on curve, but that was the game where I had triple Amaru to get through the blockers.
You got it back.
Yeah.
Also, something I've been looking at is Gedatsu. Like, do you consider it like playing at 0?
No, I would for sure just keep it at 4. Again, I want to maximize chances of seeing it at 5/6 Don, because him, like the ability of threatening to remove the Kuzan or the Rob Luki, is just too crucial.
But what if they just play a Borsellino blocker and pass?
Yeah, that's okay. That's fine.
Then you
Because
still-
Borsellino's no threat for me, right?
Yeah.
Like, that means they didn't remove my Ohm Holly if they play a Borsellino.
Yeah.
Like, this is assuming I go second, and on 4 Don I play Ohm Holly, right?
Yeah.
They go on 5 Don, go Borsellino. And yeah, they didn't remove my stuff. If I do the same and they go Ice Age Rob Luki, they clear my board.
Yeah.
And if I don't have an Gedatsu in return, then I will just be behind.
But they usually play like 2 Ice Sages, right? They don't play more than that.
Yeah, but they draw 2 cards a turn, so I mean it's happened to me often enough, and sometimes they will also just like they have a Kuzan and they have a Borsellino, but they will not play the Kuzan because they fear the Gedatsu.
Mm-hmm.
So even if they play then the Borsellino, I can still just go Ohm Holly in that case.
Yeah, you could. But I'm just considering other matchups. Like, I agree, in this tournament there was a lot of Sakazukis. I'm going to the European finals as well. I guess there's going to be a lot of Sakazukis as well. But Purple Luffy is the problem, I think, for Enel. Is it not?
Yeah, for sure. The matchup sucks, but I just don't see that much Purple Luffy. Like in I played the Treasure Cup last month, 10 rounds, 1 Purple Luffy. On day 2, 3v3, I played Purple Luffy myself, but 3v3 is obviously
Yeah, it's different.
way more diverse, and I played one purple Luffy in that as well. And now, so this is like over 3 tournaments, including the 3v3, which is like overall like 18 plus now these 10 rounds, like 28 rounds, and I played 3 purple Luffys.
So not a lot. No, yeah.
So I just don't want to assume that I'm playing them. Like I think that's just, and it's not like the matchup is unwinnable. Like
It's winnable, yeah. But if they Magellan you, then they Kaido and stuff like that.
yeah, no question. It's really rough for sure, but yeah, I just prefer to. And it has a bad matchup against Sakazuki, right? So it has a bad matchup against the most popular deck, and that will always just keep its numbers down. And having played Purple Luffy in the 3v3 myself, I just don't have that much respect for the deck anymore because I felt how much it breaks. And also, my girlfriend played Enel in the 3v3 next to me, so I also saw her beating purple Luffys with like, especially 4-cost Katakuri is really good in that matchup as well. And yeah, the Amaru still does come up, right? Because sometimes they just have to play law, and you will often be at 7 cards, so they're incentivized even to do it, and you don't necessarily can afford to play around it. So yeah, I think although of course the 5-cost kids and the queens are annoying, the Amaru can still come up, and Katakuring their 7-cost kids is really, really impactful as well. So yeah, I it's obviously bad if they have perfect Megalon into everything else, but it's manageable.
And the most important question: how does the mirror match feel?
I think the mirror match feels really interesting. Again, I only played one in this tournament, but I obviously didn't just like pick this deck up yesterday. I've been practicing it a lot online, and I think the mirror match is actually quite skill expressive. Like the one I played in top 8, I feel like I just outplayed my opponent. Like I didn't swing live early, and he did, and that just resulted in me Gedatsuing his stuff and Yamatoing his stuff, and it's sort of this weird Western Wild West standoff because everybody will just put down their big drops and not swing with them because, of course, if you start swinging with them, opponent will start swinging into the characters. But there is like a very fine line where you actually want to force your opponent to start swinging into your characters because then their characters are rested, and if you can make sure that you can like only lose one character, because like we're talking about 8Ks and 9Ks we're defending here, right? So if they have to like, for them, if let's assume we have like 2 Yamato and a Katakuri and they have the same board, right? We swing with all of them, leave up 1 for El Toro or something, and we have like 8, 9, 10 cards in hand because the mirror match gets like we get really large hand sizes in that. First, they have to invest Don to make efficient attacks, right? Because if they just like swing 9, it's a 1k and they didn't gain anything. So you have to invest like 2 Don for each of the characters to even make a relevant swing. And with like 10 or 11 cards in hand, I can just go 2k, 1k easily, right? That's not an issue at all, or even like more than that. So recognizing the situation for when you actually want to start swinging first, because I think if you are able to swing first and then defend your board, that's a math thing, right? You can just math that out. Then you will be ahead because your initial swings were against life and likely with a 9k, 9k, 8k and leader swing as well. And you probably developed another threat in that turn as well, right? Because that's also the thing. The side who's going to swing into the characters, since they have to attach Don, they're not going to develop a threat. Like
Yeah.
not a Yamato or a Katakuri
Yeah, they
type
have to
threat.
pass the chance to play a big body on that turn.
Exactly. So even if they clear one of them, you just developed another one. So basically, you didn't even lose a character. And then you have the option, depending on how many cards you drained with your swings at life, to then go into characters, with them having low hand size. So that's sort of the dynamic I see in that. And again, just Gedatsu and Yamato value. Yeah, that's I think those are the most important things. And Rush Katakuri is also like really, or was really interesting for me because, I mean, I had this opportunity of just using him because my opponent attacked my life in the beginning and I didn't attack his. Which I wouldn't even like necessarily say is straight up wrong. I think it's debatable, but yeah, I think there's still a lot to learn about Enel and the mirror match in general, or any match.
I think the
Any
mirror
match.
match is like the hardest thing that you can do with the Nell, because like purple Luffy is hard, I agree, but it's not as grindy, it's not as skill based, I would say, right? And in
Yeah.
the mirror match, it's like who's a better Enel player plus who has more luck. Of course, luck plays a factor.
Yeah,
here,
for
but-
sure. Like, if you can go wide in the early game, then your 5k swings are just gonna lead to card advantage, and whoever sees, like, if one side doesn't see top end, then it's obviously very, very hard to play as well. Since NL is not a deck that you can just like aggro kill unless you're Zoro, I guess. But yeah, so that matchup is actually kind of interesting as well because I think the general assumption is that it's like that it's like Zoro's Bane, but I don't actually think it's that easy. Like if Zoro gets like a hyper aggressive start, just the amount of swings is still like can be quite problematic. And as NL, we often just like pass turns, like going first, we pass turn 1 and 2 quite frequently, and Zoro has already potentially developed like 4 characters by then.
Sure.
And if they then on 5 dawn, you can like Gedatsu one of them, but then there's like 4 or 5k swings coming in the next turn, and like a rush Zoro as well. That can be quite problematic, especially since you want to take life, like you don't want to protect your life, so you sort of play into their game plan as well. But yeah, it's a bit weird. I think I haven't like played it a lot, like only a couple of games online, but I think generally Zoro might be a pretty good call into the meta.
Maybe Bello Betty as well, because it's
Yeah,
an
yeah.
aggressive deck.
Yeah, I think Bello Betty is like super unexplored, but it's also really tough to invest time into that because there just might not be something good enough. So it's like sort of risky when you have like at least three very good decks that you are sure if you invest time into them, you're gonna get your buck out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bello Betty, I think it has like definitely things that are unexplored, and it for sure has potential. But
It's quite a popular deck, to be honest, and it's a strong deck because not only it could lower your opponent's leader to like 4 or 3k, which basically makes all your counter cards in hand like lose their value, right?
yeah,
But it also has good triggers. Like if you try to attack the Bello Betty and you don't do it in a smart way, you might even give the Bello Betty a board to finish you on the next turn. So you sometimes don't even want to attack a Bello Betty. You want to go wide and just finish them, right?
yeah. I think attacking Betty is how you lose for sure. Like I think first 3-4 turns you definitely cannot attack.
That's why Gedatsu is good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Gedatsu's exceptional in that matchup for sure.
It's really nice to see the insight, like not just the deck profile, but the way you think in every matchup.
Mhm.
It helps other people who find the deck profile to actually understand the deck, because if you just copy paste the deck, it's not like efficient, right? You actually need to know the thought process, like not attack in the first 2 turns, to control the board with Gedatsu, not give them resources by attacking their life and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's just like a fundamental thing about not attacking live. You simply increase the chance of them, or I guess you decrease the chance of them having the stuff that they want, because they simply see 1 or 2 cards less. Shout out to my team, Senkei Senkei No Mi. We have a YouTube channel ourselves. It's Senkei Senkei No Mi, like sensei but with a K. And yeah, we try to do regular uploads, but I don't think OPO5 has seen a video. But most importantly, you will also find deck profiles. We have a rank 3 European player, Justin Tillman, between our midst. So you can definitely get some high quality insights. And yeah, shout out to everyone. And shout out to Hans for loaning me the katakuris. And yeah, shout out to my girlfriend again for inspiring me to play it now. And yeah, just generally the One Piece community. Shout out to Hard Pirates TCG for hosting the tournament. And yeah, shout out to you for having me on.
the Donhat crew is coming
Yeah,
for
the
you.
Donut crew.
I'll put all the links in the description for your YouTube channel as well. For
Sweet,
people
thank
to
you.
find.